Hey, everyone. This is the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. There is nothing, I mean nothing, like the energy of an empowered woman. You know, the kind of woman who is grounded in sexy confidence, comfortable in her own skin, oozing of self acceptance. I mean, you've seen this kind of woman before, right? She's strutting her stuff, she's shining brightly, even on an average day. She looks amazing in the jeans and the tee, but yet she can also be a runway model, just ready with her little red dress in an instant. But what if this isn't you, right? Like, what if you once felt this way, perhaps, and you were strutting your stuff when you were younger without even trying or thinking about it, and your body changes with time and you don't feel attractive any longer, and you look in the mirror and you're like, oh my god, like, who am I, where did I go, and now what? Or what if you never felt this way at all and you have no to little confidence that you'll ever feel sexy and body confident? You might then, when it comes to dating, feel that no one will be attracted to you. So you hide, or worse yet, you accept the crumbs with almost like a scarcity mindset that I talk about a lot. And most people, when they think and talk about confidence, they think about the inner confidence. However, outer confidence, which is your body image, your style, your body language, your sex appeal, this is all just as important. In fact, I can't really talk about one without the other. There is a symbiotic relationship between the outer and the inner, especially when it comes to dating. And this is why I start on the outside. You know, the inside takes time. It takes a lot of, healing and working through. And don't get me wrong, it's super important. But the outside is the quickest gateway to go inward. And I help my clients gain the sexy confidence with this all the time. I mean, sitting down and doing a little cognitive therapy on someone who is not happy with their body image, that's different than going into a dressing room and teaching them about their body type and putting on a dress that looks amazing on them. I'm sorry, that's a way quicker way of people getting the evidence, the confidence that they are amazing, that they are sexy. And I often ask, my clients or just people in general, what do you think is sexy? Define sexy. And sadly, many tend to focus on what they consider unflattering areas of their bodies and base their attractiveness and sexual confidence on the features they believe to be imperfect. So we focus on what we don't like versus what we do. And lacking confidence, many are reluctant to even date or feel worthy to attract anyone for that matter. Here's the good news. The good news is sexual confidence can be developed, and you alone have the power to define it. So, what does it look like and how might it manifest for you? Well, with me on the line today, I have an amazing woman. I literally met her not too long ago. I had one call and I fell in love with her. I'm like, come on my podcast. She is a podcast listener, and she's a woman who has experienced some negative comments from several men, both online and in person, about her body. And she didn't feel like anyone was attracted to her anymore. So she just gave up trying. And when she did try, the results weren't positive. So the residual effects of the past hurtful situations, coupled with her own self doubt, were causing her to feel anxious about men liking her, and has been having difficulty pacing and setting boundaries. I'm hoping to help her with all of this and gain more sexy confidence when it comes to dating. Welcome, Julia. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. I'm so happy you came on to do this.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, maybe just, share with the listeners, first of all, like, what brought you here to begin with, and connecting with me, and some of the challenges that I know you were sharing with me on, and what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, well, let's see. I guess to start off with, I'm 43.
Mhm.
I've never been married. I've never been engaged, and I have had really just decades of just really challenging dating and relationship situations. And I I think just in the last year or so, I decided to buckle down and see, okay, what what am I doing, or what can I do differently
Mm.
to number one, attract men that I really actually do want to meet, and then also to gain more confidence back, because I knew that I knew that there was some issues there.
Well, let's
So
start there because I know that you had shared with me some of the body confidence too. Like, what has been some of the confidence issues?
well, so it went, growing up, my teenage years and early 20s, I was very, very confident, actually.
Mm.
I always had, what a lot of people would consider an ideal body type. I was athletic, and slim, and for different reasons in my mid to late 20s, I just started gaining weight quickly. I had some health issues and stuff. And, when it happens fast like that, or I don't know, I guess maybe slow too, but I just, I didn't feel like myself anymore. And then it was around that time that I started, I would get comments from some guys.
Mm.
um, and then into my 30s, I was getting comments from men that I had dated and who I had been physical with. When I would ask them why they didn't want to go forward in a relationship, or turn what the fun that we were having, into something more serious, they admitted that that I just wasn't their type, that I was too big for them.
Hmm.
And that really, it was hard. That was really hard. And so I kind of I would take really big breaks in between dating.
Mhm.
And I got into, a few different times of being really depressed.
Mm. That's really hard, especially when you've had comments like that. It can really
Yeah.
shoot your confidence down on top of not feeling good in your body,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like pour a little salt in the wound and let it overflow and
If
bubble.
I'm not doing it enough myself.
Yeah, exactly. Right, right. Well, I wondered, how did lack of confidence then manifest in your dating experiences? Like, what would happen then when you weren't feeling good in your body and stuff like that?
I think I got to the point where I would kind of almost take anything that anyone would give me.
Mm.
I started getting into a really bad cycle of getting physical with men without any sort of actual depth to any sort of relationship. Um, and I was letting them totally breadcrumb me, and string me along. And or I would just jump into and try to rush into like a committed relationship with someone.
Ah,
Um,
what was that about?
I think it was like, if I could just, if they were my boyfriend, quote unquote, that meant something more.
Ah, uh-huh,
Even though
uh-huh.
they all treated me horribly. There, and it wasn't like, I never had any physical abuse or any, real like verbal abuse. It was more like just they didn't really, you know, plan anything with me. I was
Mhm.
always the chaser. Um,
Ah, okay.
I drove all the relationships, and and I that and my lack of confidence was what was behind that.
I have a question. So, and this is kind of like rewinding time before, like in your 20s when you were frolicking around and when life was good as you were painting it. Were you dating back then when you felt better in your body, and were different things happening?
Well, it's kind of funny because I actually, between the ages of about 21 and 28, I was very, very religious. I
Oh.
Yeah. um I went from I was religious in high school, although I was very confident back in high school. I was very flirty. I was what they would call boy crazy.
Uh-huh.
And then I really back then felt like I could just, crook my finger, and the guy that I liked would, of course, like me back. That's kind of how I felt, even though that's not always how it happened. But and then I had a relationship when I was between 19 and 21 years old, and that shook me. Um, it was the first time that was really the first time that a boy really
Yeah, yeah.
told me, you know, he was totally unattracted to my body. Because at that point I had gained about 20 pounds in about 2 months because I had gone on the birth control pill. Um,
Mhm.
and that really shook me. And when we broke up, when I finally realized that that relationship was not going anywhere, I broke up with him. And then I ran basically to church. um, and I almost there for 7 years. So I
Wow.
didn't. I think that's part of this too, is that I didn't have the dating experience in my 20s the way that a lot of people do, and that
Yeah.
didn't start until I was about 28. Um, so I don't know that that answers your question at
Well,
all.
it does. No, 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 no. That actually, no, it's real. That's really important because I mean, the last almost like reference you had, with a body that was different right before. I mean, you gained a little bit of weight. Was with that guy who didn't like your body even back then.
Right,
And then there was a time warp that happened. It was
right.
like you put yourself in a rocket ship and blasted into orbiting. Right? And so then you plop down after 7 years into the planet and the door goes up and you're like, "Oh, geez." And you kinda, like, pick up where you left off, and then all this stuff started happening.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you, Kim, I dove in because there were no at
Ugh.
that at the age of 28 when I decided to, I decided that I was not that religious belief anymore. And those constraints were gone. I
Yeah.
dove into, meeting men. Um, and it was very much like what I think a lot of people would do when they go off to college. Um, so I feel that, yeah, it's kind of funny being 43 now
Mhm.
and only having a handful of even short-term relationships under my belt. And even then, they really weren't relationships. And when I say short-term, they were like maybe 2 months, 4 months at the most. And with me being the only one really making any effort at all in the relationship. So
I almost get the sense that you were trying to make up for lost time.
for
Like
sure.
yeah, like, okay, well, so I'm gonna be your girlfriend now, and then I gotta catch up. I gotta catch up. And I find this. that happens all the time with people who had a long period during the formative years of not dating, and you look around you and you see everybody like being married and coupled off and having kids, but yet you're still in an adolescent body. Like where when the rocket ship took off, that's where you left off, and that's where your
Yeah,
development was,
right.
and so I guess part of that is for me to share with you, like, give yourself a break kind of thing. I think you've also been hard on yourself, trying to get like hurry and get all this experience under your belt and get to the boyfriend thing, but yet, having the time to really enjoy and learning about who you are and learning how to date without getting attached is super important for you because you
Yeah,
never had that.
exactly. Never.
And so I know we started out with talking about like how also the body image stuff impacts you, but I wonder, like, even if the body confidence stuff wasn't there and wasn't an issue, do you think you would still be struggling with this stuff, or do you, like, how do you see it relating to all this?
Yes. I mean, it was, multifaceted.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sure. Um, yeah, there were definitely, I've heard you speak before about how, we go after relationships that mimic the parental relationships we had
Yeah.
as children. And that is very much the case as I've been thinking about that over the last few weeks after hearing that. My dad definitely was, he basically just like emotionally abandoned me when he met my stepmom when I was 10. And even though we were all three under the same roof, it was, our relationship completely changed at that point. Because up until then, I was his baby, I was his world.
Oh,
And then all of a sudden, at 10 years old, it was
yeah.
like it just changed overnight, and it never was really resolved. So that I see that in the men that I've chosen to chase, you know, looking back right, now I can see that.
How are they similar? That's a really good and strong connection that you just made.
They are similar in that, the men that I've been with have, I always would complain that, they don't reach out, they don't contact me. They're not very good about being in communication. Even like every couple days, I
Uh-huh.
would wait or I would test, and then after a day or two, then I would finally just reach out. They wouldn't make plans ahead of time. Um, and in my 30s and late 20s, that I was like obsessive about that. I
Mhm.
really, I mean, I look back and I'm like, man, I was like crazy. I was like a crazy person trying to like chase after these men. No wonder. I mean, I drove them off, but also, that was just and maybe that's part of it is that I was, trying to create situation,
Mhm.
possibly subconscious where I was driving them off so that they would not, you know, um, communicate and just treat me the way that a partner really should in a committed relationship.
That's really powerful, Julia, that you just made that connection. And I was going to ask, see, this is why I loved you the first time we talked, because I could tell you've been doing some work, but also I think now as things are coming together, you are making connections for yourself. But it's also for you to get rid of that old script as well. And so
Right.
definitely as you were talking, what the connection is that you will be attracted to kind of these unavailable people because it's replicating that familiarity of somebody who's unavailable and abandoned. So it's almost like the brain's way of trying to correct an experience of some
Yeah.
sort. It's like, okay, this
Yeah.
feels familiar, someone who's not always there for me. And on top of it, I'm just wondering, like you said, on a subconscious level, that maybe the guys that you are attracting who are not liking your body, it's almost of making yourself right. See, like,
Yeah.
there it goes again, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's now flipping the script, so to speak, and saying, wait a second, it's not you, it's your script, and that's what you've been playing out. It's just the play, but what if we change that script and you actually loved who you were in your body, and that wasn't really the reason why these guys leave?
Yeah. No, I've actually that's been has shifted, in the last month or so. And again, a lot from listening to um, and listening to your podcast. Um,
Hmm.
just realizing one thing I'll say is that a big for me, because as of a month ago, my plan was to lose all the weight that I wanted to lose
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
then put up a profile and start dating again, in 6 months or so. And I was listening to this wonderful woman named Kim Seltzer.
Aw. I did not plug her to tell you this, people. You are so cute.
Just,
What did
over and over.
what did she say, this Kim Seltzer?
She said, the thing that clicked with me is when you were coaching someone else and you said, and now I've heard this over and over again, that guess what? Dating can also be part of your growth,
Yeah.
your self um, uh, growth, basically.
Yeah,
And
dating is working on your love life, yeah.
it, exactly. And that, if you just use it as another tool,
Mhm.
along, while you're working on what you want to work on, it's great. And that just, I thought, yeah, I don't need to take it so seriously. Like, it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
like this perfect, and along with like, even like having the most perfect pictures, and the most
Mhm.
perfect profile written out, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to embrace what I am right now. And I look around and I see all these women of all different body shapes and sizes, being adored by their partners.
Yes.
And it just didn't make sense in my brain. Like, why do I think that I'm the one woman in the world
Uh-huh.
who, isn't a size 6, and that's the reason that all these men, that no one will ever be attracted to me. And it just seemed ridiculous. I will admit, I have known a handful of men, um who very, very much so were very attracted as I am. But as we all know, it takes, when you have something locked in your brain, you focus on the 100, the 99 negative
Uh-huh.
remarks, and you totally forget about the one or two, positive. Or is that vice versa? I mean, is
Yes.
that theme
Yes.
goes the other?
Yes. No, and that's a really good point, Julia, because I was just gonna say, I would go so far to say that even if we got rid of the quote unquote weight issue or body image issue, I have a feeling there would be something else that would come up that you
Right.
would say, oh, well, maybe I'll wait for this, or maybe I'll wait for that, or maybe it's this. And, I think so many times that is what happens because of your frame of reference, especially in your case, is that your journey and your work is going to be around getting used to feeling like you deserve the love, that you deserve stability and someone who is available, because you're not used to that. You're used to the chase.
Right. Right.
And so it's almost going to feel weird, and you might not even be attracted to stable. You might even think it's boring, or you won't trust it. You're like constantly waiting for the ball to drop, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why the weight thing was really like, and just metaphorically insulating for you, right? Because you could protect yourself against that.
Right.
And so,
Right.
and I'm so excited that you're like finally not seeing that as a way of just being victim to that. You're saying, okay, I'm going to put my profile out there. And I saw your pictures and you look gorgeous. And I'm so proud of you that you are doing that. But now your journey will be that self-deserving kind of message. And how do you stick with it and learn how to receive without chasing that?
Yeah, that's the next step for me, is that, I did put my profiles up on a couple different sites.
Mhm.
And I have I'm it has been really been about almost 2 weeks. I think it's tomorrow that I'm live with my
Ah.
profiles. And I had 2 states over the weekend.
Ah!
Yeah.
And what happened
And
and what you left with?
so going into it, another thing, to you is that, it just keep looking at it as it's this big experiment.
Yeah.
And, I just, wearing red lipstick more and practicing making eye contact with other human beings when I'm out and
Mhm.
about. Like
Yes.
just turning on that flirt, no matter who it is that's in front of me. Practicing flirting, like just in my messages back and forth. That was really eye opening.
Mm.
And it really, and I got a really different response this time around from
Ah.
men that I was messaging. Yeah, I was like, this works.
This works,
Oh my
people.
God.
Yes. But so how are you feeling now at that, like something different happened? Are you like what's the next thing that you're wondering about or worrying about?
The next thing that I'm worrying about is, okay, and this
Uh-huh.
goes right into the pacing thing. Like,
Yes.
I my initial like reaction, now that that I had one of the dates, I would really like to see him again. Um
Uh-huh.
and we ended the date by basically saying that to each other, that this was, we both had time, this was great, and I definitely want to do this again. And it's very mutual back and forth. And there's been a couple, that was Sunday, so that was 2 days ago.
Okay.
And we've had a couple messages back and forth online, still on the dating site. And my first gut feeling is like to lock down that second date, to like say,
Uh-huh.
or even like tease, like, hey, when do I get to see your beautiful blue eyes again, or something like that. But I also know that that's like, the balance between
Mhm.
leaning back, or even just like inviting a, like nudging, like, hey, you, why don't you go ahead and I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, what to do now.
Okay. Yes. And
And
this
then
is
that's
what I thought you'd be
you know,
struggling with.
teenager.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's fair because usually history has it, based on what you told me, that you'd want to kind of lock things down. and not have the anxiety or the angst of hearing from him again, if he likes you and all. That's like when you start getting ahead of it and in your head.
Right.
So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what's your mission right now? Like, what do you want?
L Just in dating in general?
Yeah, like, what are you set out to do right now?
Right, so my goals right now are to, as I said before, make this a fun experiment.
Uh-huh.
You I really do want to I don't wanna jump into any sort of commitment or anything quickly, even next couple months.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
Right.
okay. So that's really important, because the reason why so many people get ahead of it and want to lock things down is because they're thinking relationship and boyfriend, and in your case, security and all the things like the old kind of gremlins want from you.
Right,
And so what's important moving forward is to keeping like your eye on the ball with your mission. And I invite you, and I usually have all my clients do this, to write out your mission. Write it
okay.
out so that you see it in front of you. You paste it on your computer, you put it on your refrigerator, you put it in the mirror to remind yourself, "Oh, that's right. I'm not trying to get a boyfriend right now, and I don't have to worry about that. I'm simply learning how to flirt, have fun with everyone, and to receive."
Right. That's really good. It's so
Right,
simple,
yeah.
but it's, like, profound.
Right, I know it sounds so simple, yet I think that's why the feet get lifted off the ground and you start like losing just where you are and everything, because you forget about your goals and your mission. And it will also take the anxiety out of it, knowing that no matter what happens with this guy, you're still in alignment with your mission, no matter
Oh,
what.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll say, like, I don't it does feel differently this time because although I really had a great date. I do like him. I would like to see him again. I don't feel like this anxiety, like, oh, what if he meets someone else, or what if there isn't anyone after him? Like, I already know, like, that it, what happens is going to happen, and I'm having fun, and I'm talking to several other guys right now through, on Bumble, and
Yay! Hell yeah. I love it.
so who knows what's going to happen, and
That's awesome. Okay. So now the second thing I want you to do, so we have your mission. Okay. Now I want you to really like pull in about your self-worth. And this is rewriting that script of I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not skinny enough. Like whatever any of you listening also have in your minds, because we all have it. We all have those things. And so I invite you to take a look in the mirror, and I want you to write down also all the things that you love about your gorgeous body, your physicality, your traits, who you are, when you look in the mirror. And before you go on a date, before you have an interaction on Bumble, you're going to read that list, you're going to read your mission, and you're going to date like Queen Bee, because not only you're fulfilling your mission, but that you deserve it, because you're you are good enough just as is.
right,
Even if you lose weight too, like that still doesn't take away like all the fabulousness of who you are right now. And um the third thing that you asked about that I want to address is, striking that balance between being the aggressor in your masculine versus flirting to keep things going, right? Because this
yes,
is a
yeah,
question I get all the time. Um, Dropping a hanky is good. Picking it up and crumpling it up and throwing it at him is not good. Okay? So, how does that get translated? It gets translated this way, like, if a guy wants to like, at the end of the night and you are giving him indication with your body language, and you're looking in his eyes and you're smiling and you say things like, This was fun. And let's say you were talking about chocolate that night and you say, yeah, I really want to know more about that chocolate you were talking about. That's an example of dropping the hanky because you're indicating that you're interested and you're also giving him a clue of how he can follow up with you. Oh, well, then
Right.
I'll have to take you to that chocolate place, or I'll have
Right.
to make you or buy you that chocolate next time and we'll taste it together. Like it's an invitation
Uh-huh.
versus being an aggressor as a woman would be more like, okay, so this was really great. I'm available Wednesday night at 5 p.m. If you are, would you like to go out again? Like, I mean, I'm being obviously pretty extreme there, but that, you know, asking a man out again or, pinning down a time, all of those things is just a way for you to try to feel better and not be anxious. But I want you to be okay with the unknown and be okay with just having him surprise you with a call or a cute text. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
difference?
it totally makes sense because as you're saying that, I realize I do have anxiety about yeah, for just waiting.
Right.
Wait for that, the actual invite to do something again. And so I feel a little in how much now should I message him and what, do I just wait, until he, like messages me and
Yeah.
or if he messaged me and then yeah.
I know. This is gonna be your journey, and this is why I wish well, one day, hopefully, you'll get to do the coaching program that you and I talked about, because
Right,
these are the kind of things that come up for people. It's like, to your point, you got past the phase of, I'm not at the optimal weight to put up a profile, and you got over that, and you put it up, and you already have dates. Like, you're already
right.
past that. So, there's always gonna be what's next. Like, I have clients who are now in relationships and they're like, okay, I caught him. Now how do I keep him? So it's like it never ends. And I guess what I will say, like the short or the long of the answer is that you're doing things to show that you're excited about him. It
Uh-huh.
that you're showing interest, you're being playful, you're having fun,
Right,
but you're not dependent on his validation to you or follow-up for
right.
your like self-esteem.
Yes, yes.
And that's going to be your journey. Like learning how to not have these guys who used to do like what I call intermittent reinforcements. Like they'll give you just little those breadcrumbs, leaving a trail behind, and you just like absorb them because you're like, oh my
Right.
God, I'm craving this stuff. But it's more about the crumbs aren't enough. Like if the guys are just dabbling those crumbs, you're not going to keep showing excitement
Oh, yeah.
or that kind of thing.
I'm definitely past that.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know no more. And but keeping an interest going. And by the way, it doesn't have to be like constant texts. It can be sending little pictures or little jokes or, having fun with that. It doesn't have to be literal text because that's another thing that women get caught up in is like they get into these like boring conversations. So, how was your day? Oh, it was great. What did you do? Well, I went shopping with a friend, and I call it just reporting. And then that can also, yeah, that can also make a conversation die. So, your job is to keep him really excited at that state, but also make him wondering, "Ooh, I want to see her again," kind of thing. And so it's a balancing act for sure. And I think you're in a state of recalibration with it, because you were used to
Right,
one way and now you're trying to pull back and really like, yeah, like you said, have him do more of the pursuing.
right.
Anytime you're feeling like you're throwing out more texts than you're getting back, that's when you know that you're doing too much.
Yes. Yeah,
So that
that's
would be like
something.
one thing. Yeah.
Right, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, Julia, I mean, I could talk to you forever, and I'm just I feel like you're in such a good place. You're really starting to make connections. You have this awareness, and now it's time to just implement some actions that are different than what you've been doing, and you're already starting to see the results. So I can only imagine.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I feel really empowered.
Mm,
Um, and even with, the little anxiety that pops up here and there, like we were just talking about, it's even that I just have to keep reminding myself this is a fun experiment right now. I'm
yes.
doing a fun experiment and we'll just what what response this generates over here will happen if I do this. And
Yes.
and it's like, in my head, what would Kim say?
Oh, I know the people, and this is why the podcast is so funny to me because people say, "Well, I hear you in my head, literally in my head,"
Yep.
well, and know that you also have the tools already in you. And yeah, if I am a little voice that reminds you of that, I think at the end of the day, what I really want you to always keep repeating over and over is that no matter what, you have you. No matter what guys say about you, good, bad, or indifferent, you have you. When you look in the mirror and you really truly see that sexy, confident woman who's hot no matter like how she is, that's when you'll start attracting men who see that too.
Mm,
And that's the switch. That's the
yes.
new story and the new script that I want you to play out.
Yeah. Great.
Well, Julia, thank you so, so much. Well, to be continued. I'll definitely want to hear more in the future and just, yeah, just have fun.
Thank you.
So, thanks for joining me today. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want to know more, make sure you go to my site, as always, kimmyseltzer.com. If you haven't heard, I have a special retreat coming up in June. It's just for women and it's called Spark Your Sexy. And it's going to be amazing. I only have 4 spots left, but I wanted to hop on and let you know about it in case you are interested. This is to ignite what I call the 5 F's: fun, friendship, fashion, flirting, and femininity. So if you are interested, definitely contact me. You can do that by going to askkimmy.com. That's askkimmy.com. And we can see if it's a fit. All right. Well, hopefully we can chat about that sooner than later. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.